size and as big as he is now, is it possible he could possibly get on tackle down the road?
Yeah, here's the thing with Britt, and we were very transparent with Britt through the whole process. And he's one of those awesome kids that, Coach, I'll play wherever you want me to play. And so we actually have talked to him about the ability to be on either side of the ball. And so what I don't ever want to do with these guys is ever recruit them with lies. And if we have intention of maybe moving them, then we'll just be open about it. I think that's how you, because here's the deal. If you are dishonest with them or you kind of mislead them in the process and then you get them here with those misleading whatever, then they're going to not trust you. And if you don't have any trust, you got nothing. And so that situation there, he's going to start on defense, and but he is a big old kid that probably isn't done growing. And so I love, I watched him play basketball, and I did a few weeks ago, and kid can move, he's aggressive, and yeah, I mean, he's got, and there's several guys. We told him in the process, hey, you may be either side of the ball. We don't know yet. We just want to get the best guys that fit with us, that have the attitude, Coach, I'll do whatever I can to help this team win. And you win with guys like that.
What's kind of the key to keeping all these guys committed?
Relationships, and there's no question about it. And I think that the key to that was they were built a long time ago, and we did it for a whole year. And so when you have that relationship built, then even though, like, I take a guy like Peyton, his position coach was not here anymore. Coach Wilson recruited him as well. He wasn't here, and so he was kind of like, at first he just wanted to kind of figure it all out. And but it didn't take us long at all to get him to feel comfortable again. But if there had not been a relationship, and I also believe this, and it's something that I brought with me from the places I've been, we staff recruit. So when you staff recruit, guys are going to get other jobs. I mean, it's part of the profession. They get opportunities. Guys that are position coaches want to be coordinators. Guys that are coordinators may have a chance to be a head coach. And so those things are going to happen. And so I've learned a long time ago, you better staff recruit. And when you staff recruit, then they know everybody. So if someone happens to leave, it's not like the one guy that I felt connected with is now gone, so I now look elsewhere. And so I think those two things, and it all goes back to relationships, and it takes energy to do that. It takes time to do that. But that's how we recruited, especially defensively, and it just filtered into other parts of our program.
We all know the quality of football in Florida. You got 9 kids from Florida. Is that part of it, as a staff, having a lot of relationships down there built in?
It is, and even Coach Fry, who's no longer with us. I mean, he had tremendous ties to Florida. And obviously I've spent, I was a high school coach in Florida for 5 years before I ever came to Indiana as a high school coach. So it's all about relationships, and I think that there's no question that helps a lot. And then when you get some young men from an area, that helps. You come up here and you visit, and you got a guy that you knew, or this is one of your teammates, and that's happened. If you see there are several of these, there's teammates involved. Even Mike Zimba, is teammates with one of our receivers, and with Nick. And so the bottom line is that helps. So I just think that those connections are good, but it's it's a lot of good football players down there. And that's an area that we have recruited well in the past, and I don't see that changing.
Tom, how likely is a kid like Tronte, is he going to have a chance to compete for the job, or how do you break?
Yeah, he's the thing that's a little different is he's not a mid-year enrollee, and so I think that it's challenging to do that. But there's no question. I want to make it very clear. I don't care what position it is, and we talked about even we signed a punter. Well, I told everybody that's here, it's the best punter punts, okay? Best quarterback plays. And so if you come in here and you have an opportunity to whatever time you're given, and so if you're a freshman, you come in June, and you've got June and July to make an impression and prepare yourself to compete at the highest level, the best players play. So, yeah, he's going to have an opportunity to compete for that position like anybody else. Is that tough to do as a freshman? Yes, it is. But the best players are going to play, period. I don't care what grade they're in.
Still a recruit you get in the sense of an offensive line coach. You hope to have that done by spring practice?
I would say, hopefully within a week. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get through signing day and focus on that, and then get that squared away here in a week.
What would you say like the 3 or 4 biggest things you guys got with this class? You talked about body type and other things. What would you say are the key things you got?
Okay, I think number one thing that sticks out to me that we got young men that fit IU. They are tough kids that care about school and want to compete. So that, to me, is getting a young man that fits that is extremely important, okay? The second thing I feel like we got are a lot of big bodies. You know, we had an emphasis here as a staff, let's go out and get some bigger, some length, some size, and let's allow ourselves to be in a better position from a young man to be able to compete against the Big Ten teams and the size of those teams to be able to allow us to do that. But obviously, you got to have speed. That doesn't change. And so, big guys that can move, and I think we addressed that. And then the other part of it is guys that are very versatile. You know, I feel like you look at this list of guys, you got guys that can really play a lot of positions. And I think that's really, really important to me, is to get guys that, I don't want to pigeonhole guys. You know, sometimes, you know, Ashawn Riggins really didn't play hard corner at all in high school. He was a receiver, and he was a really good basketball player. And so we use those two things to project him as a corner. He ends up coming in here and starting as a freshman. So, you know, to me, you just kind of get the right body types with the right kind of character and the right kind of competitive spirit, and then you get those guys in the right spot. So I think that this gives us a lot of flexibility with a lot of these guys to be able to mix and match them, and once we get them here, figure out where's the best place for them to play.
You talked about it a little bit, but I mean, just what was the process like recruiting your son? And I imagine it probably wasn't something that totally started here. But I mean, what was it like for you to just kind of go?
It was different. You know, I just think that you just, you know, as a parent, first of all, the whole calendar is really, really, it makes it difficult as a dad to take him places. Because when we're doing our job of running camps and working, then you're doing that. And so you can't leave and go take him on visits over the summer. And so, and plus we knew he was going to be a mid-year guy, so he really wasn't going to have time to do the January visits. So then when it goes dead, the campuses, nobody can take any visits, even coaches. So there's a 2-week period over the summer when you really would have a time for me in my schedule to go do it. So it was really kind of a tough situation. And so it started back when I was at South Florida with Coach Taggart. We kind of had to work out something for me to be able to go do that. And that's where it started. And even there, and they were the first ones to offer me. And it was funny because they came to me and they said, hey, we want to offer your son. And I'm like, all right, go ahead. I mean, I said, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to recruit him. I don't want to evaluate him. I just want you guys to treat him like anybody else, but take me out of the mix. And if you feel like he's good enough to play, then we'll go. And I want you to treat me as a dad. Because what happens sometimes with coaches' kids is they get kind of treated differently, and you don't want to do that. I want him to be recruited by his position coach and go through the whole process of him feeling like he got recruited, not that, hey, he's Coach Allen's kid over there and he's just always around. And so, but it's just different because everybody knows him and he's there and he comes to practice, and so it's just a different, but at the same time, it's really a neat experience for us, you know, and we feel really, really blessed, you know, and he's just one of those kids that has worked really hard, you know, and he ain't gonna always be the best athlete, you know, in the group, but for whatever reason, he's always elevated, and you hear what his high school coaches say about him, and that's them talking and not me. And so he's a kid that has a tremendous amount of character. He's a 4.5 student on a 4-point scale. Obviously cares about school, and just won the Scholar Athlete Award for the whole area of Tampa Bay. He's going back down next week to get that award. And he's really a top-notch kid that's going to work his tail off, and I'm proud of him for that. You know, he's maximized what he's been given, but he's been around it. You know, he's seen, when you're a coach's kid, you see he goes to all the college games, and he sees the college players when he's younger, and it's kind of allowed him to you know, aspire to that. So, but it's a hard situation, I think, in some ways. But you know, we actually went through this whole process, and I called coaches. I talked to Coach Ferentz. Said, you know, do you think it's a good idea? You know, should we do this, or should he just go somewhere else and make his own way? And so we talked it through, and he gave me his advice. I talked to a couple other guys that had coached their sons, and you know, I played for my dad, but that was in high school, and which is different. And so, but the difference is if you play for your dad in college, okay, you're with him all the time. If you don't, I'll never see him play, ever. Pretty much, maybe once a year at the most. And so it really is kind of one extreme or the other. So we just kind of, first we thought it wasn't going to be a good idea, and then we just prayed about it and talked to enough people and said, you know what, hey, this is what we feel like is best for him, and then just worked out. I mean, I never dreamed I'd be his head coach. You know, that wasn't the plan. You know, obviously I was going to be the DC here, and he was going to come here, and God had a different plan. So obviously this is where we're at, and he's going to be treated like everybody else. And I say that to our players. You know, he's a player over here. He's going to have to earn his way, and he knows that, and that's part of the deal. And what happens here stays here, and he doesn't go run home and tell mom, because that's not how it works. So, but no, seriously, he knows that, and that's kind of the unique piece there. You know, you get different. And even Coach Ferentz kind of joked about that. I said I think they had a deal where they came home and some things that happened at practice were kind of talked about, and it was real quickly the law was laid down that that's not going to be that way, because you can't function in that manner. And that's kind of that part I kind of get, because you get that from high school too. You know, you got to leave it out there and separate. But he's in the dorms, and he's a normal student like everybody else, and just happens to be my son.
Tom, is there any area that you didn't feel like the recruiting was able to help in, or that you can?
You know, I can honestly say no. If you go through each level defensively, we addressed the D-line. I feel like we got the number of backers we wanted. I feel like we got 2 corners that I love, and we got a couple safeties. And this is a class that wasn't going to be a heavy safety class, because we've got some older guys there. If you look at the numbers based on how it felt, like we just needed corners. And so we got some guys, too, that had the flexibility to play corner as well. Then offensively, get a couple receivers, get a couple running backs, got a good mix of O-linemen, got a quarterback, got a tight end. So I think it's a very balanced class if you look at the way it all kind of worked out. And there's always a guy or two that you try to get that, you know, but I've learned this. It's not the guys that you miss on that hurt you. It's the ones that you take that you shouldn't. And to me, that's the key. And so you're always going to recruit guys, and you get a lot of guys you want. There's always a few that you don't get. That's the way for everybody. But you make sure you get the right ones, and that's the key.
What made schools hesitate at first with Nick Tronti, and what did you see in the film?
Yeah, I think, because we had that question too. You know, you go through, he's not when you go watch a 7-on-7, he's going to be a good player. He's not going to be like, oh, that's like the next. But when there's pads on and 11 guys playing, which is football, he rises and he shines. And that, to me, was the key factor for me, because I wanted to put the tape on and see that. I didn't care what he did in 7-on-7. He's still good at that, obviously, but he's not 6'3" or 4, you know. And I think that in today's game, the way the recruiting the quarterback position goes, most guys are done before their senior season, okay? So most quarterbacks, and this is another piece, this would be the second reason why I think this happened, most people have their quarterbacks committed, and this is true, and so you get to your senior season, oftentimes we don't really watch that senior film. And so I thought he really grew from his junior to his senior season in terms of just performing at a high level, and I felt like that he just continued to improve. And so by the time the film that we watch, you're thinking, what are we missing here? I mean, this kid looks really, really talented. And so you kind of go back and you find this and that, and at the end, you know, he had several places that we had to try and fight to get him from, you know. So bottom line is, you know, I don't have all the answers for that, but I think those are key things. The recruiting of a quarterback is a very sped up process, sometimes too fast. And so this is a guy that I think just has that grit and that toughness, and that when the lights are on and it's 11-on-11 football, he's at his best, especially in those big games, and that's what you want.
I know it's probably even still too early to project how guys will look in spring or fall camp, but is there anyone who's maybe wired a little differently, kind of like Marcelino was coming in last year, a guy who just kind of draws up plays in his sleep, that kind of thing?
Yeah, you know, and I tell you what, you know, we liked Marcelino, but I don't know if I would have projected. Now, when he showed up to camp, you know, in June, I knew the kid was very, very focused. You know, would I have said that standing right here in front of you on signing day? No, we were excited about him for sure, but I don't think I ever knew he's going to be that good, you know. So, you know, for me, if I think of the class, you know, a guy kind of sticks out to me that has that similar as Fitzgerald. I think Brian Fitzgerald is a guy to me that just kind of has that. He's a football player, you know, and has those same qualities, you know, that Marcelino had, that similar mindset, you know, not quite as big, you know, as Lino, but that kind of jumps out to me. I think that's a high quality. I think Tronti has that. I just think he has that look about him that's different. And there's a focus and there's a seriousness to it that is different than the average guy. And so, you know, and all these guys, they all got a lot to prove. You know, to me, this signing day is just the beginning. You know, they're all a clean slate. We can all be excited. There's not a coach in America that ain't excited about his class. They're all saying all these great things, and I get all that. That's part of the deal. But these guys got a lot of hard work ahead of them to be able to come and play in the Big Ten and compete for the championships. So I love these guys. I think there's going to be several that there's always going to be surprises. There's going to be some that, you know, don't end up being what we thought they were going to be for whatever reason. But I do feel like that there's a core vein to these guys and what they represent that's gotten me excited as their head coach.
Tom, when you look at the rankings, some of the recruiting experts, at least from a Big Ten standpoint, don't have you at the top, you're at the bottom. Is that concerned? Do you worry about that, or is it more about, as you mentioned, you're at the
Honestly, I couldn't even tell you what we're ranked, you know, so that just really doesn't bother me. You know, I know that the bottom line for me is, because you know who makes those rankings up. It's not coaches, okay? So the bottom line is that you go through and I didn't even know how many stars some of these guys were when we recruited them. Matter of fact, I tell our guys, don't look at the stars and don't look who's offered them. Watch the film and trust your evaluation, okay? And there's no question, yeah, we want to be able to recruit the best players we can get. I get that. And sometimes those rankings are more accurate than others, okay? But I will say this, it takes a disciplined coach to be able to say, I like this guy. I don't care if anybody else likes him. Trust your eval. If we think he's a good player, go recruit him. If we don't, I don't care how many stars he's got in the other direction, all right? Because that can get you, and I've been in those meetings where that gets you in lots of trouble, where you're just trying to pick a guy because of what somebody else thinks of him. And that's the reality. So I just know that you have to trust your eval on your guys and get guys that fit your program.
Are you guys still looking to possibly add somebody late in the process? Do you have room for?
Not really expecting to do that. I mean, there's always unexpected things might happen if a guy popped up, but I'll not say we're having that as a target because we really feel like we numerically addressed the areas we wanted to address.
Half a dozen kids from the state of Indiana, is that kind of like the target number you want to have, or is that just?
Well, it depends on, you know, I want to have a good core from Indiana. I do. And I feel like you look at that list, you look at the list of guys in Indiana and who all went Division I places this year. We got the majority of them. And so I want to do that. And I just was on the phone already with 2018 linebacker from Indianapolis, you know, already today, talking about next year's class and our goals for being able to be encouraging and not encouraging but just, you know, convincing these guys why they should stay home. And I want to get the best players in Indiana to stay home. I do. And we're going to approach it that way, and we're not going to bow to anybody else or allow anybody else to think they got an edge on us. If they're our guys in state, they're not going to get recruited any harder than they are by us. So, yes, it is a priority.
And speaking of that 2018 class, I guess moving forward, are you looking for the same kind of big versatile types, or is there something different?
Well, I think the positions are going to change. You know, we really were heavy D-line this year. There'll be less taken at that spot. I think there's going to be the linebacker spot. We're going to emphasize the more of the athlete. The stinger position is going to be addressed in that class. That's kind of the way I think of it right now. Safeties, so that kind of body type there. You know, and then up front on the offensive line is always got to get a good core of guys every year, and that they're going to need to be big. And so, and then I just, you know, I like big receivers. You know, I think that's a matchup problem for us in the secondary. And so, and I want fast tailbacks. You know, I just think that's guys that can go. You know, so that to me is, I'm sure that's not anything different anybody else would want, but it's all about, you know, you just got your numbers, your scholarship numbers, and how they fall, and you just got to address those needs. And every class is a little bit different.
In terms of scheduling and recruits, you guys are playing games in Florida, Georgia, Virginia. How big is that for exposure in those areas?
I think it's important. You know, even last year we played down at FIU, and coaches stayed down there and recruited. You know, after the game, we played on a Thursday night, stayed and recruited on Friday, the high school games, and I just think that we invited all those area kids to come watch us play, and so, you know, that's just kind of what you want to do, you know, and so I think that without question, you have a chance to play teams from that part of the country, it helps with getting them to be able to get their interest in us. And we have a really good brand. We really do. Outside of, you get down in the South, and we've got a great alumni base. We really do, and it helps us as we're going through, and from a post-collegiate perspective and their job placement, those are all big parts of it, and that helps us. And IU's done a great job, marketing that, and the IU symbol, when you walk into school, they know who you are. Go ahead.
Some of your defensive guys play, especially from the area like Deshaun Minor and Fitzgerald. It seems like you went after guys who can really hit,
Oh, yeah.
not just make the tackle guys.
We want explosive guys. I want guys that when they hit, I want that. Linebackers, safety, D linemen. It's that burst. Everything's that acceleration. From that 3 to 4 yards from, either with my position or as I'm attacking the ball carrier, I'm looking for that surge. And that's what you want to show up on film, and whatever position it is, that to me is what you want.
And I know he kind of popped up, he's probably on the radar late, but Tronte, you talked about wanting more mobility in the quarterback. I mean, is that kind of at least maybe the profile of quarterback, you want a guy that can make more plays with his feet?
Well, I just think this, and this is how, I'm not a big, I got to get a dual threat guy. Here's what I want. And I want a guy that the defense has to account for, that the D-line has to deal with in their pass rush, that they can't just rush for and get a bunch of depth in their drops and not worry about the quarterback being able to make somebody miss and extend the play. Okay? I think you have to be very careful, and I tell this with we recruit these guys. I'm not going to, I don't want to be a system where it's all a bunch of quarterback runs and he's just getting pounded. I just think in this league, I just think that's tough. You better have 3 of those guys lined up to be able to take the next hits. And so, but he has to be able to extend the play, make guys miss, and make them account for him. And Nick's a guy that can move around pretty effectively, and he's 210 pounds, and so he's got a pretty good frame on him to be able to handle a hit or two. But you just think about the teams that we play. If you think about Penn State and their quarterback, they didn't do a bunch of quarterback design runs, but he hurt you with his legs, and he can extend the play, and it's just you got to account for him. And when you do, where do you have to count for him with? It's in the secondary. And so that changes everything. And so it just, to me, it really affects the way you scheme on our side of the ball as a defensive guy. So just having that ability to extend those plays is what I'm looking for. However that looks, but he needs to be a passer first. I want an accurate quarterback that throws the football well first, and then his legs are the next step in the process.
Coach, you had several defensive line recruits, and Mark Hagan's in his second season back in Bloomington. What makes him such an effective recruiter?
He's relentless. It's the same thing that he does as a coach. It's just, it never stops. It's just constant. He's already got a good pool of guys for 2018 that we're targeting. And, we had a great pool of guys to pick from on the D-line. And so that's why you get a guy or you miss a guy. You just kind of like, you can't get them all, And so, but I think I would attribute it to that. A lot of great work. He's a hard worker and knows what we're looking for, and built a great pool of guys, and then went after them and built relationships with those players, with the families, and all those that were going to be helping make the decision, and did a really good job of that.